So we're gonna start now. So I guess welcome everyone to our first Discord Q&A. Trigger has been doing like live drawing Q&A style streams on their Twitch, but this is held by fans for fans. I guess welcome all 139 of you in the audience right now. So we did field questions in our Google form in advance, but we did close it, so we would be accepting questions within the AMA VC text channel. And I guess we can begin. So this is our first Discord AMA. We'll try to hold more of these often. And our guest today is Genice-chan, the concept artist for BNA. Please introduce
Hello.
yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm Janice and I did concept art on BNA. Yeah.
Yay. For those that
Yay.
don't know, BNA is Brand New Animal. It's Studio Trigger's 2020 anime. It came out in March. It's about this high school girl named Michiru that suddenly finds out she turned into a raccoon, a Japanese raccoon called a tanuki, Beastman, and she enters this world called Anima City where she meets all sorts of beastmen, and it just surrounds her life and her friends. So to begin off, a lot of people have asked this question was how did you start working for Studio Trigger all the way from Canada? How did you come into contact with them? Bruno Cerner asked this question.
Oh yeah. I guess this is like the story I've told before, but like basically it's like I just like woke up one weekend and checked my phone and then there was an email from like um one of the producers in like LA, Will Fang, and it was like, oh hey, like are you available for like concept art, like freelance work? They're like Trigger's doing like a new anime and like we wanna have you. And it was so like unbelievable to me that like I think like at first I just like assumed it was some kind of scam and then like ignored it until like later in the evening. Um, I decided to like reply just in case. And it turned out to be real. And yeah, we sorted out contract stuff and I started working with Trigger.
So do you know who exactly like noticed you or how
Oh,
they found out about you?
I'm told that Tsutsumi found my work on Instagram. So Tsutsumi's the one of the producers on BNA. Um,
Okay, and if
yeah.
you mind, do you mind plugging in your Instagram for those people that don't
Oh,
know?
sure. Should I do that in the text channel?
Yeah, you can do it in the text channel and just like
Yeah.
say it out loud too, like your
Oh, yeah,
handle.
it's just Janice Cream. Like my name, Cream, or Jen Ice Cream on Instagram.
So do you pronounce it Janice cream or like Janice cream?
Oh, so like that's kind of like the trick, right? So if you know my name, you would pronounce it as Janice Cream. If you don't know my name, you'd be like, oh, Jen Ice Cream. Yeah,
All right, sweet.
yeah.
So I guess like more on your background. So this question's from I don't want to say it. His name is H Homie. When you were learning I guess like sort of when did you start learning to draw and what was your inspiration for beginning to do art?
Oh, I guess like a lot of people, I've been like drawing since I could hold a pencil, I guess. Though if I had to like put it on, like put my career on a timeline, I'd put the starting point at 2011 because that's when I first got like a tablet and like Photoshop and all of that stuff and started trying out digital art. Yeah. Um, what inspired me? I think I've always liked doing art. Um, like, yeah, I was always drawing all the time. I guess, like, I watched some cartoons and stuff.
Okay. What were your favorite cartoons back in the day or even now?
Oh, fuck. Let me think. 'Cause the thing is, my family didn't have channel, so I'd only, like, watch shows, like, when I went to, like, other people's houses. Um,
Is channel like the cable subscription in Canada, I guess, or
yeah, 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 my family didn't have cable.
okay.
Uh, watch stuff on, like, VHS tapes. I guess, like, I watched a lot of, Disney movies. Um, we had
Like
some po
Bambi, like those 2D
Yeah,
cartoons or
yeah,
3D?
yeah,
Okay.
the 2D ones. I watched some Pixar stuff too. Yeah.
So I guess like this sort of brings on to a question one of the audience members asked from Elite. Do you prefer drawing digitally or on paper?
Oh, definitely digitally. I like being able to edit stuff freely. On paper, there's like you can only erase so many times and then the paper starts like breaking on you.
But don't you think that like at least with paper, like you have to be more committed with your lines, with your strokes?
I,
Because
I guess so. I mean, yeah, but then like, if you have enough discipline, you can do the same on digital.
okay. And you did talk about like enjoying art. Do you pursue like any other mediums, like perhaps like photography, sculpting, things like that? Have you tried?
Uh, I did some like ceramics in high school. I mean, like when I travel, I take lots of pictures. I guess like I play piano as a hobby. That's kind of it. Yeah.
Did you start as like an early age as well?
Oh yeah, it's the you know
Yeah, I mean, I don't want
um
to say it, but yeah, it's
it's
the
the
classic like
it,
Asian kid
it's the
story.
yeah, it's the classic like Asian kid extracurricular. You got piano. Um well, I mean for people that I don't know, it's like piano, skating, swimming, Chinese school, um
I think
like
art was also in there as well, right?
oh uh not for me. I guess for me it's like my dad is actually teaches like some art courses at like local universities. Um and I think he kind of just like understood like it's better to let kids do their own thing instead of like putting them in a classroom for art.
Okay.
I didn't do art class. Did the
Because
other things.
I'm curious about that. So would you say your dad had an influence on you in pursuing art at all? Whether
Oh,
it be just like inspiration or just like following his footsteps?
oh yeah, definitely. I don't know if it's inspiration exact like um like like being raised by him, I guess. Like I had like a lot of access to resources and things like that. I think like even though he's a teacher, I was always like too stubborn to like learn from him. Um, but it's like, like growing up, like when I like drew on scrap pieces of paper, the scrap pieces of paper would be like his perspective assignments. So like
Oh,
I got exposed at a young age. And he had like a lot of books and stuff and like a lot of like markers and like pastels and whatever. And he was very like encouraging of like trying stuff. So I think that helped a lot. With being comfortable and, like, motivated to pursue art.
I guess a follow-up question would be, I guess I come from a pretty similar immigrant background, but for others as well, did your parents try pushing you away from, say, like more creative fields towards more STEM fields? I feel like a lot of kids nowadays can relate to that, where their
Oh,
parents are asking them to like sort of drop their like maybe hobbies or their interests and
mhm.
just like go towards a more like stable career. Like,
Yeah, quote unquote "stable." Yeah,
yeah.
well, I think, like, the weird thing about my family is, like, my parents, like, are both design students, so they have been like on the creative career track. So I think compared to like other Asian families, like they weren't as anxious. I think my dad is like completely chill with it. My mom was like a little bit more anxious. Like she was like, "Could you like at least consider being a teacher instead?" But you know, I was like very adamant. I think like something that like helped them a lot to like you know like just trust me with what I'm doing is like I researched very hard about like what my options were education wise and like career wise and I kind of just like you know like let them know what's up. It's like oh like it's
Right.
actually a pretty big industry here in Vancouver and it's like you know like I know what I'm doing that sort of thing. Yeah.
So could you elaborate a little bit more on that? We had a lot of questions on our forum, just like how do we almost take like something as like creative as art, but also make it as into a productive, but also like edifying career as well. Just
Oh
like
like
career options you looked into, just like different avenues you thought
oh
to pursue.
I mean, like, to me, it always made sense to do art as a career. Like, it's I don't know, it's not as like intangible as like some people might make it out to me. Like when you're working in like TV or like commercials or things like that, like at the end of the day, you're making a product or providing a service for money, like, that's all it is. So,
Right.
like, you know, if you're providing a service, then you train yourself to be able to provide that service, and then, you know, once you have the skills, then you just, like, use your skills, uh, exchange service for money, that sort of thing.
Amazing. Capitalism is amazing.
Oh,
That's another topic. So
no.
we have a lot of aspiring artists in chat. I do know that you have been like involved with like mentorship opportunities.
Mm,
I think a similar question would be how'd you get into so for those that don't know, I think Janice is involved with a mentorship program with Giant Ant, and if you
yeah.
could elaborate on that and just like advice you would give to like younger artists, but also your younger self if possible.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll start with the giant ant mentorship thing. So that kind of like started around the time that like the Black Lives Matter protests were like at like the at their peak in 2020 and like a lot of studios were, you know, kind of like figuring out like what to do to show support. So like, you know, some of them were doing like fundraisers and like whatever, like donating money.
Right.
A lot of them were like chose to like open mentorships like specifically aimed at like black artists. So like Giant Ant kind of did both. So like the boss kind of um like gave gave out money to like everyone and be like, okay, like you know, like here's some funds, like donate them, like where you see fit, because like picking a charity was like a whole thing. So he's just like, okay, you guys like choose your own. I trust you. And then like the other part was of that is like we set up like a mentorship program, kind of dedicated to like marginalized artists that want to enter into the motion graphics industry. Um, yeah, and I kind of helped with um, like setting up the structure for that because I think like teaching and mentoring is something I'm pretty interested in. What was the other parts of that question?
So
Like,
I think the second part of the question was like what is one piece of advice you'd give to yourself or
yeah,
younger artists in
yeah.
general?
Younger artists. I mean, like, there's so many, there's so many things I could advise on, and like, I think at the same time, it's like, I think um people come from very like different circumstances. So I guess like my first advice would be to um be aware of like what your needs and goals are, so you know like what advice to take and what advice not to take. Because like pieces of advice that are good for like one person might not like apply to someone else. So there's that. Um, and then I guess like based on something I see a lot, I guess another tip I would give would be to like if you want to learn and improve at something fast, um, I think it helps a lot to be like specific and like focused um about like what you want to improve on. So like for example, you're like, oh, like I want to get better at drawing. It's like what do you want to get better at drawing specifically? And you go like, oh, like anatomy. Then I would ask that again, like specifically what about anatomy do you want to like improve at? And go like, okay, like hands. And then, you can keep going from there. Okay, like what about hands? Like, is it like the posing? Is it like the bone structure and like stuff like that? Um, because it's like when you spread yourself too thin, you go like, oh, like I want to get better at drawing, like characters and
Right.
backgrounds and like comics and animation. I'm like, whoa, bro, like chill out a little bit. Cause like I think when you like try to like do too many things at once, um, you end up just like spreading yourself like really thin and then like not getting anywhere. So
Right.
yeah, sticking to a direction and like being specific is more effective, I think.
So we just had a question pop up in chat recently. Everyone says practice, which is good and all, but what is the most effective way to practice something? Like improving both better and faster than just drawing like a bunch of heads or a bunch of hands.
Mm, mm. I think it kind of comes down to like just like thinking while you're drawing. Um like um hmm.
Because it's a tough question, right?
It
And
is yeah. Yeah.
because I was also going to ask as well is like, what if you're trying to like say you're trying to draw better hands, right? But then
Mhm.
it's like almost like a difficulty curve where it's like getting infinitely more difficult to perfect like the perfect hand like you want to shake. But it's like, at what point do you just stop and say like you're done? And what point do you have to like take a breather and just like
Mm.
try something different, you know?
I mean, like, at that point, it goes back to, like, the specificity thing, right? Like, when you're practicing drawing hands, it's like, I think being very clear about, like, what you're practicing, helps the practice be more effective. So it's like, are you, trying to, like, practice visualizing, like, the anatomy, from when you look at reference? Or are you trying to, like, stylize, like, the proportions or things like that? Um so I think, yeah, just like having very like clear and specific goals helps the practice be more effective.
And you brought up a good point with anatomy and like versus stylizing like maybe in a cartoon or Western style.
Mm,
A few artists were asking this question of, do you think it's important to learn like the fundamentals of like say like drawing figures or drawing humans, like learning
mm,
like real anatomy? Or
mm.
do you think someone can start with like drawing anime or drawing more stylized versions of humans?
I I think like the two sides help each other. So like whether you want to like be good at drawing like realistically proportions humans or whether you want to like be good at drawing like like Disney cartoons or like anime, um you would benefit from trying out the other thing. So like in the case of um like focusing on like stylized ways of drawing, the stylization is like based on something, right? And I
Right.
think like realism is kind of like the original deal. So like when you study um like things in realistic proportions, or like when you study realistic anatomy, that kind of helps you understand why some things are stylized certain ways. And then like by understanding that, like you can kind of like wield the stylization like more effectively. Um, and then like in the case of like, you know, wanting to draw like semi-realistically or realistically, I think stylization is like a useful thing to like practice, because that forces you to just um like grasp what's important, I guess, better. Because it's like, you know, you're simplifying things. And yeah, something like that.
That's interesting because I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of artists like default to saying like you have to learn the fundamentals, you have to like learn how to properly like draw humans before you go into more like contemporary styles of art.
Mm,
And I think you bring up a good point with like how like drawing styles or drawing different like so, like say like different periods of art as well just help you like get perspective and also help like
yeah.
build like more realism for you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's like, you know, like people probably give the advice to be like, oh, like don't skip out on like realism, because like most people go like, oh, like I don't need it. And then like their work suffers for it.
Right.
So yeah. But then at the same time, I think like it helps a lot to have fun with your work. Um so and like there's benefits to like practicing like stylization as well. Um it goes both ways.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to move on to more art related questions, but
Mm.
some questions include I guess like how long does it take to design a character
Oh,
from just like maybe just a general question.
oh, that really depends, because it depends on you know, like how clear the direction is, and like I guess also like the needs of like the project, right? So like sometimes like I might need to do like a like very like crisp and like clean like turnaround,
Right.
and like that, and like, you know, like all of these details for like how things like fit together. Other times like I might just do like, or like the project just needs like rough sketches in like black and white. um so it depends. It can be
So when
anywhere
you
from like 2 hours to like days.
right.
Mm.
So like with these projects, are there ever like moments where you have to like scrap ideas or do you like save some of these ideas for maybe future applications or clients?
Oh yeah, like I scrap ideas all the time. Like for example, like part of my process is like I always do a lot of thumbnails before I take things further. Um and yeah, like 90% of my thumbnails are just like garbage if I in my sketchbook. So yeah, I do like go back to those sketches. Like if I'm like, oh, like I just want to like work on something without thinking about it. I have a pretty big catalog of um unused ideas.
So you mentioned sketchbook. Is this like a digital notebook you keep or is this like physical?
Oh, I prefer physical. Yeah. I do my thumbnails in sketchbooks. And they're like literally the size of thumbnails because I draw really small.
So is this like what medium and what utensils are you using? Are you using like
Oh,
pen, pencil or
I prefer pen because it doesn't smudge. So I used to do more pencil sketching, but then
okay.
like one, like, you know, the lead gets all over my hands, and then like after a while like the line fades, and that's kind of annoying. So I switched to like pen. I kind of prefer ballpoint pen because it has like a similar feeling to pencil. Um, but like ink pens are fine too. Like my sketches are like actually garbage. So it doesn't like to me it doesn't matter. Like the paper, like to me the paper quality and pen quality doesn't matter as long as it can like make a line without being annoying.
Do you quickly have like any recommendations on pen brands if there's any artists listening in chat that
Um,
want to buy some?
oh, I don't know,
Like
like
Muji
literally.
pens or
Oh, Muji pens are pretty good. Like I don't know. I don't think like I've really like developed my taste for good pens because like I literally just take anything that's like not dry.
right.
Yeah, Muji pens are pretty good. What else? I guess Pilot pens are pretty good.
I use these like gel pens. I'm not sure what they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're called G2 pens. I've been using that a
Mm.
lot for like journaling, things like
Oh,
that.
nice. But you're
So
probably fancier than me.
no, I just have some like friends that are really particular with like stationery
Oh
and things
yeah,
like that.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah, it is. Are you
Yeah.
into stationery? Like, do you collect like pencil pouches, pencils, things like
Oh,
that?
I collect like memo pads. Like, we have Daiso here. They have like really cute notepads and stuff. So I collect it.
Wait, are they like sticky notes or
Some of them are sticky notes. Some of them is just like loose pieces of paper.
okay.
So I have lots of those. Like I like when I have my shop open, I use those to like write notes for people that buy
Oh, that's so
stuff.
cute.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are asking questions about Trigger and BNA, so I think we'll
Uh-huh.
try to cycle to those first in
Yeah,
case
let's
people have
go.
to leave early.
Yeah.
So the first question everyone's asking is what was it like to work at Trigger?
What was it? Well, I didn't work at Trigger. I worked in my bedroom for Trigger. Uh, it was fun. I think at first I was like definitely pretty intimidated. Um and like very flattered, I guess. I think like as I spent more time um on the project, I kind of like got a better feel of like, you know, like how much room I had to move like creatively. And I think yeah, like everyone was very like receptive to like the stuff that I handed in. That made me happy. Yeah.
So on the note of like just like working with them, some people are curious, how did you communicate with Trigger? Like did you learn Japanese? Did you
Oh,
use some other means?
oh no, it's like it's all tattooing translating. MVP. Yeah, I didn't learn Japanese. Um, like on meetings, it would be like me, Tsutsumi, Tattoon, and Will Fang. So Tattoon and Will both knew enough Japanese and English to like translate. And Tsutsumi can like understand English like pretty well too. So like the language barrier wasn't too much of an issue.
And that's like super interesting too, because when I was like hearing from Tatsun and I guess other people in the anime industry, you do get the impression that it is a little bit just like isolated to the US, but if you look at or isolated to Japan, but if you look at like a lot of these production like credits and things like that, there's a lot of like people being outsourced from even Canada, like US too.
Mm, mm. France.
Yeah, especially France
Yeah,
and like Germany,
yeah.
there's a big presence there.
Oh, I
So
didn't know about Germany. Cool.
yeah, yeah, especially with manga too. So like
Mm,
if anyone in chat is like listening, especially with these Netflix productions, a lot of a lot of like animators are outsourced, so you can work on a lot of these productions, not from Japan and not having spoken Japanese either. It's just a lot of it's like getting your work out there. So, I guess on the discussion of BNA and your involvement with it, could you just
Mm.
maybe briefly explain like what side of the production you're on? Like, what is a concept artist? What does a character designer do? Things like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I was most involved in like pre-production stuff. I kind of feel like the like what people do in positions like really depend on like the project itself. On BNA, I did. I guess like I basically posted like everything I did like on Twitter and like my website, but I do like the initial designs for a lot of characters, and I also did a lot of image boards. Yeah, so the image boards are just like um frames based on the storyboards, and it's just kind of to establish like the color palette and like lighting of like scenes and stuff.
I think on the notion of color, Shujinko, if I said that correctly, asks like, do you have an idea what colors you're going to use when you're starting an artwork, or do you decide later? And also, how do you decide?
Um, I I guess like as always, it really depends. I think sometimes people have a a color palette or like a mood in mind, or like sometimes I'm like matching the palette with um like a scene that's like happened before or something like that. Um like for BNA, it's like after I think like by the time I did like all of the image boards for like the first episodes, I like figured out kind of like the language, the color language I wanted to like stick with. Um so I kind of like use that as like reference for like how to like design palettes.
So coming from like outside art, like
Yeah.
I'm like a STEM lord, so I don't really know any of this. So
Oh,
with like color language, color theory, I hear all these like color like
oh,
descriptive words. Like, could you maybe elaborate on what
oh,
that
okay.
means?
Oh, I mean, like color language would be like, well, I don't know if it's a official term, but like what I mean by that is like, for example, like in action scenes in episode one, like I ended up using like a lot of like red and like yeah, like a lot of red, um, when like scenes were full of action. So like taking that, I decided that like whenever there's like a high action scene, like I would use red in it. So that just helps me make decisions. Or like for
Oh,
example, like in I guess mundane scenes, there's like a very like daytime like cyan palette.
right.
That I think yeah, I did that for was that an episode? No, episode one is all at night. I did that for episode two, and then I decided to like make it stick. So like whenever there's kind of like a mundane like daytime scene, um, it's just the cyan palette.
So this is interesting. So did you like get access to this script beforehand and like sort of ideated on what themes, like what colors to use for each episode as well?
Um, Kind of like I decided that on my own. Like when Trigger like when yeah, like when the team like went over like the script and storyboards with me, they were always like very like open about like what palette to use. I'd be like, "Oh, like do you guys have like anything in mind that you want to do?" And most of the time they're just like, "Oh, just like do your thing." And I'm like, "All right." So, like for my own sanity, I made up like a vocabulary for myself just to like help with decisions.
One thing I'd
Sorry
like
to interject.
notice,
Oh, yeah?
I think the biggest reason, at least to me, Yoshinari wanted to work with you was for the colors, like your choice
Oh,
of colors.
oh, thank you.
They always complimented your selection of colors. Always made comments such as like, "We Japanese can't come up with these kind of palettes." So
Really? I
yeah,
Oh
don't
my
know, I think
gosh.
Yoshinari's colors are really good. Like the cover he did for the staff book, it's, like, really
I
nice.
think I'm not too sure if it's just trigger staff or just like animators or like people in the
Uh-huh.
industry in general, but they're very critical about the colors. Like both Koyama and Yoshinari are always talking and rambling about like how at least Yoshinari rambles a lot often. Like he tries to avoid using black because he thinks black
Oh,
is cheating.
black is a bit black is bold, but can be boring, so I get it.
Well, I think it's just too good. Like Koyama even says that like I think one of the reason why he went without the outlines for Promare was because
Mm.
that black is just too good, too useful, and they just wanted
Aw,
to
they
make it work
challenge
without it.
themselves. Yeah,
Uh,
Koyama's
I'm
super
not too
good. Yeah.
sorry. I'm gonna mute myself now.
Thank you, Tatun. He's the Trigger PR head, or not head, but Trigger PR guy. For those that don't know, and yeah, that's some special Easter egg I didn't even know about. That Janice has amazing color ability, and Yoshinari praised her too. One thing like I noticed is like the way you describe colors, it's almost as if like say like maybe in like English or literature class, they like describe like themes or
Mm.
like vocabulary. Like you're using a lot of terms like vocabulary that like sort of like allusions or like even like idioms where they like sprinkle it throughout and just create like almost a narrative, like a color
Mm.
narrative. Does that
Yeah.
is that am I getting on the right track with that?
I guess so. Like, I think, like, for me, like, color design is a mix of, like, intuition and, like, understanding, like, where that intuition comes from and, like, how to, like, strategically wield it. Yeah.
And that was like sort of my next question with how much of your color design is conscious and how much do you think is actually just like subconscious that you
Oh,
just like naturally just do it versus if you
oh.
consciously like choose like put red here, put blue here.
Hmm. It's hard to say. I think it's kind of a mix. I mean, I think it's kind of like this. It's like I subconsciously like feel out the vibe I want, and then I kind of like get something down. And then once I have something down, then I think about it. I kind of like ask myself like, oh, like what's working here, or like why does this work, or like why is this like not working yet, and then I kind of problem solve my way into making things more effective. Yeah.
Okay. And some people are spamming the night running GIF. Janice, you specifically worked on the ending, right, with night
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
So since we're on the topic of colors, how did you choose the color palette? Because I thought it was amazing with
Oh,
like how they all complement each other.
oh, so for that, I think my starting point was a few things. So I think first off, like in the brief meeting, I guess, Yoshinari and Tsutsumi like specifically said like they liked the color design I've been doing on like on the image boards and also for like the first key illustration. So they wanted something in that ballpark. So there was that. And then around that time I also watched Promare, and I really I really liked the way like, there's a version of the credits where it's just, like, magenta with, I think, like, black on it. Is it black or white? Anyways, like, it was really, like, bright and bold, and I liked the look of it. So I kind of, like, used that and, Yoshinari and Tsutsumi prompts as a starting point.
Right.
Um, so it's just lots of magenta, very bright colors.
Because the colors do differ a lot from like say the colors used in the actual plot, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like there's definitely a contrast. And I guess another question would be, did you get the finished like song out first, or did you plan the ED without the song?
Um, we got the song first. Though like when I first got the song, like it wasn't like the completely finished version. Like I think they didn't have as many like filters over it, but like all the lyrics were there, like the beat and the timing were there. So I had that to storyboard with, and then yeah, like I designed the storyboard to kind of refer to the lyrics a bit.
I guess a follow-up would be like, what was like your first like impression of the song? Like the emotions going through you, and also like, were you like set on an idea the first time you heard it, or did it take a couple like times listening to it and like looking at the lyrics to like fully get an idea in your head?
Um, well, I think when I first heard the song, I enjoyed it. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing an ED, yeah. Uh, it's like it is a catchy song too. Even the demo version, I liked. Um, I definitely had to listen to it a few times to and then like we had to get like Tattoon to like translate the lyrics so I could like have a clear idea of like what to do with the storyboards because you know, like on top of like when I was designing like the ED, it's not just like a matter of like making it look cool. I like we were on a tight timeline, so I had to like think about um how to design things in a way that's like doable in the amount of time we had. So like there's like a few like repeating or like reused animations and like um strategic omitting of backgrounds, things like that.
Did you have a say, I think it was episode 10 or 11 with the ED turning black and white?
Oh, that I wasn't told that would happen. But they did like give me like a heads up. I didn't know in advance though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was really curious about that because that definitely
Uh
like surprised me when I first watched
yeah.
through the show.
Yeah. I think if I knew if I knew in advance, I might have tweaked the colors a little bit, but it's cool.
You know if they converted directly to like monochrome or do they or like
Uh
grayscale or do they like they
I
probably tweaked some of the like the
I
curves, right?
I have no idea. I hope they
Okay.
tweak some of the curves because I did not design it to be in black and white.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I feel
Yeah.
like I'm like really involved with like photography, right? And a lot of like people would just naturally like if they want to do like the black and white filter on say like Instagram, they'll just like convert it to grayscale. But
Mm.
it's so much more nuanced than that with how like the black contrast with other
Yeah.
grayscale colors, things like that.
Yeah.
So I guess like to wrap up talking about the ED, what do you think was the most challenging part about animating it?
Animating the ED. Oh, hmm. I don't think there was like a specific thing that was challenging. Um, but like we worked pretty hard on it, I'd say. I guess like for me personally, like maybe like the imposter syndrome of like working on the ED is like, oh like damn, like is this gonna be cool enough? It's like, oh I don't know, this doesn't feel cool enough to me. And then, you know, I'd tell my coworker, I'm like, I don't know if this is cool enough. And they're like, Janice, chill. It's like it's pretty cool. Like doing fine. So there's that. I guess imposter syndrome. Pretty pretty tough. Never goes away.
Even you say now, like right after like completing BNA and also like doing a lot of work with clients at Giant Ant too.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like it comes and goes. And I'd say like since doing DNA, I've been like a lot more confident, but like I'm still human. I still like when I turn down work, I'm still like, oh, like this is it for my career. I'm never gonna work again. Oh well. Yeah, but I think that's normal. Happens to everyone.
And I noticed, like, in this past year, you were nominated in some award ceremonies with BNA,
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's like pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah, so like with Crunchyroll, I think you're nominated or you're runner-up for character
Yeah.
design,
Yeah,
best character
with
design,
Yoshigaki. That was cool.
right? And
Yeah.
also, I think you're nominated for best ED as well,
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah. That was
So,
cool.
what was like going on through your mind with that? Were you contacted beforehand, and was this like almost validation as well, or
Oh, it was like completely out of the blue. I was like, oh, like that's neat. I don't know. I think like because that contest is kind of it's it's like the votes are or like the winner is based on votes by fans on the internet. So I think for me, I kind of understand that like it's like whoever wins is it's not like necessarily like a reflection of the quality of the animation.
right?
It's more like the hype and like the um dedication of the fan base. But
Kind of like those K-pop voting things, right?
yeah,
Like
exactly. It's
Billboard
like it's not
or
about
BTS,
how yeah, it's not about like how good they are. It's about like how like who has like the strongest fan base. But it was like super cool to be acknowledged, I think.
I think that brings to like a fundamental question. Sorry if I'm like veering off track, but it's
Yeah, no
like,
worries.
would you rather have like a lot of people like recognize your work, say like popularity, or you rather like be like renowned as like the best artist in the world? Like, which would you rather have?
Like,
Like,
oh, so it's like would I rather my work be popular or be popular
yeah,
myself?
or be like popular among like say like art enthusiasts like in Guggenheim or like
Oh,
in like in the Louvre, if that's pronounced like that.
oh, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, like the question there is like, what's the separation between art and the artist, right?
Right.
So I don't know. Um, I wouldn't want to be too famous because it seems like a pain.
Has the fame reached you yet? Like say like in your like your personal life, like have people like come up to you and be like, "Oh my gosh, did you animate for BNA?" Questions
I
like that.
I think like if I like when I go back to doing conventions and stuff, I kind of anticipate that happening, but like I can still like freely go to them all. I'm still a pretty normal person. Um yeah, I mean like there was that time like I did like a talk at like my old university and then afterwards like some of the students came up in a line and were like, "Hey, can you sign my phone?" I thought it was funny. Um, I don't know.
Do you enjoy opportunities like that to interact with fans, or would you rather like let your work speak for yourself and not
Uh,
like be like figure?
I think like fan interactions in moderation are always like really fun. Like stuff like this, like or like going to cons like once in a while, it's pretty fun. But like I wouldn't want it like all the time, right?
And I
Yeah.
think one question I wanted to ask was like, what is like a memorable, because I've noticed that you interact a lot with your fans on Twitter. So like what is like one memorable like fan interaction you had or a conversation you've had on say Twitter after BNA
Oh,
came out?
hmm. Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, like since before I worked on BNA, like when I was just like doing fan art on Tumblr, like I'd keep like a folder of like nice messages that
Oh
people
my
would send me.
gosh.
Yeah, so yeah, I keep that stuff.
Aw,
It's hard to pick one. Oh, I guess there was that dude that like sent a letter out of the blue to like Giant Ant addressed to me. It's like the first fan mail I ever got. That was like pretty cool. Um,
really?
Yeah.
Do you still keep up with your Tumblr album of
Uh,
compliments, things like that?
I mean, like, my Tumblr is pretty dead.
Oh.
So but I think, like, when people, like, send, like, nice messages, like, I do, like, try to keep it somehow.
And I just really want to briefly like encounter this, but like stuff like dealing with like trolls or just criticism online. Have you encountered that yet recently, or like how, if you have, then like how did you deal with it?
Oh, I would say compared to some people I know, like, the internet has been pretty merciful to me. I think, like, there's always gonna be, like, people that have, weird boundaries, but, for me, it hasn't really gotten to an extent where, I had to worry too much about it. I think oh, I can think of, like, maybe, like, 1 or 2 people that I had to, like, block, but yeah,
That's good,
it
especially
happens.
with like, yeah, I've like noticed like at least the Trigger community, it just seems very like welcoming and warm for
Mm,
its artists and in terms of support and things like that.
mm,
So I
yeah.
do want to wrap up talking about BNA. This question's asked by Okami, 1997, D Hone, Savage, Cal, Cat. Who is your favorite BNA character?
Oh, it's hard because like, I was involved with so many of them. I guess, like, the easy answer that I can default to is Michiru because she's kind of, like she has a very, like, iconic look, and, like, she's kinda like a daughter to me after, like, all the work I've done with her.
How
Yeah.
many versions of Michiru have you gone through
Oh,
before finalization, would you say?
I think, like, before I got asked to work on BNA, Yoshinari and maybe some other people already, like, did a bunch of explorations of her. Um, I did one, and then, like, the final design is, like, kind of a combination of, like, um, things that I did in my design and, like, that someone else did in theirs. It's posted on my site, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
If one of the mods can like link it in chat, that would be really
Oh,
helpful as well. So when you say like exploration, like when I think exploration, I think like going to Antarctica or something.
mm.
So like, what's like? Could you like give an example of like maybe like a far out like design of Michiru that you guys explored but was like axed basically?
Oh, I actually didn't go that far out. I think, like, because it was, like, early on in the production and, like, I'm like, "Oh, like, I don't know, like, how weird I can go." So I like, in the beginning, I always played it, like, pretty safe. But, like, Yoshinari did some, like, pretty cool, like, explorations for, her beast forms. I guess I did some too. Like, I did, like, a bunny Michiru and, like, a wolf Michiru that didn't quite make it into the final thing. Um, yeah.
And I think this was brought up as well. Just like when you're exploring like Beastmen in particular,
Mm.
like how much of an impact was like the furry community on it? Like, did you look into it, or is it or did you find inspiration from elsewhere?
I think I collected inspiration from, like, a lot of different places. I think I mentioned it before, like, Pokemon is actually something I went back
Whoa.
to, like, quite a bit because I think the way they stylize some animals is, like, it's very, appealing and effective. Um, I also really like, the work by, um, Meeking Pie on Twitter and, also, like, Hollow Draws.
You think you can
Um,
drop the spelling in chat
oh,
if anyone's
yeah,
interested?
wait, let me let me go on Twitter so I spell it right.
Because
Yeah,
I think the whole Pokemon thing is really interesting. Like, did you do any like practice, like say like you take one Pokemon and like turn it into a character, or was it more from like starting with a character and like basing it, or just like taking inspiration from Pokemon?
I think it was more like, I'm trying to, like, for example, I might be trying to um draw like some deer. Like, man, like I don't know how I should stylize deer. Then I would like look up some deer Pokemon and be like, oh, okay, like so maybe I can like shape the nose like this or like shape the
Oh,
antlers like this and kind of just like borrow some ideas from other people. Um
that's
yeah.
interesting. Because I
Yeah.
think I think in a previous interview you did talk about like Primarina. I think it's like it's one of like the aquatic Pokemon,
Yeah, yeah.
and you use that as inspiration for maybe like Nina or some of the other aquatic animals too.
Yeah, a little bit.
So one question I think it was brought up was, were you like restricted in terms of like any designs for background characters? Like, could you design any animal, or was it specifically like certain animals you had to stay away from?
Oh, I think from the beginning it was like no fish and no bugs. But then everything else is game. I think they also specified like they don't want that many reptiles. They want more mammals. Um and I was like, oh, okay. Then how about like whales and stuff? And they're like, yeah, whales are fine. So then the first I think the first designs I did is actually or, like the first background character designs I did were actually like some whales because I wanted to like test the waters, I
Interesting.
guess. Yeah.
So DM asks, which character was harder or more complex to design?
Mm, I think Nazuna took a while to figure out. Like
Really?
not exactly because her design is complicated, but I think we didn't I didn't have like a very like strong grasp of her character until like more of the script came out. So
So what part of the design process, or where does it fall with like the production of the script? Was it more like synchronous, like going along at the same time, or was part of the script finished before you were brought on board?
oh, I'm trying to remember. The script was not finished when I was brought on board. I think when I was brought on board, I think yeah, I don't even know if the script had been done yet. So it's kind of like a lot of the time um I'd be like designing things as like the people on the trigger side were like working out the storyboards and script. Um
Hmm.
but there were some like details and stuff that like they had like they decide on already, like even without the storyboards and script. Like for example, like like what kind of character Michiru is, or like what kind of character Shiro is, and like kind of like some overall direction in the story. Though I think Nazuna was kind of difficult because at least to me it wasn't like super clear until she showed up in episode 6 of the script.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you did find out about Nazuna's character in episode 6, right?
Yeah.
Did that change your impression of how to like animate her and like, or not animate, but just like design her in episode one
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, definitely.
In what way
Yeah.
would you say?
I think before she showed up in the script, I think I had the impression that like she's kind of a more saintly person. Um, but I think in the story she's more what's the word? Snooty?
I did
She
not
has a
expect that
she
adjective.
kind of has like a she kind of has a mean girl vibe. I didn't expect that.
Like Regina George, Mean Girl vibe.
Kinda,
Because I was gonna
yeah.
say she's almost like a flawed character in a way.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
she's like kind of like still like kind of like a saint, but also like chipped in a few ways.
Yeah.
And it takes friendship to mend her.
Yeah. I mean, like, I had anticipated that she would be flawed, but I didn't I didn't expect her to be, like, flawed in the specific way that she did, but I think, like think understanding that, helped with the design a bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
So, this is an anonymous question, but this person asks if the anime expanded to other projects, would you change the outfits of the characters and how would you imagine them?
If the anime, like, expanded
So
into
I guess like we
other
can rephrase the question to like how would you redesign the outfits of the characters if there were to be a season 2? Like Michiru with
Oh,
her red jumper jacket, things like that.
mm. Oh, I guess that really depends on, like, what the story becomes, right?
Right.
Like, is it very far in the future? Like, is it do we have, like, a 5-year time skip, or is it just, like, a different setting? Um, well, I would say Michiru is pretty hard to, like, redesign because it's like once you change her hair a little bit, she looks like a
How
completely
about
different person.
how about let's have some little fun. Let's say like they go to
Yeah.
college, right? They like finish high school, they go to college.
Yeah,
Like how would
yeah.
you imagine them in 5 years? Like what would they
Oh,
be
in 5
wearing?
years. Oh, Michiru is definitely a jock. She'd probably be on, like, a sports team. She'd, like, wear athletic clothes everywhere.
Would she be at the
Uh,
Olympics right now too?
maybe if they allow Beastmen. I don't know. Nazuna would, uh, be kind of preppy, I guess? She'd be,
Yeah.
like, fashionable. She's, like, kinda girly.
Uh-huh.
Um, I guess universities don't really do uniforms.
I guess my question would be
Um
like, would their hairstyles change, do you think?
Oh,
Or would they change like how
I
they do their hair?
I think Nazuna might. I feel like Mishu, like, the writer in me would be like, "Yeah, she'd change her hair," but then the artist in me is like, "Her hair is unchangeable. You change her hair, it's, like, not the same character anymore." I don't know.
So
Um,
like Nazuna in the story, like her seems like her go-to outfit a lot of times is just like sweatpants and sweatshirt.
yeah.
How would you imagine like a preppy Nazuna would be wearing in college on the first day of school to like
Ah,
impress people?
to impress people. Whatever's trending, or I don't know, she's not, like I think I
A
would
crop top,
I
halter
would
top,
no,
high-waisted?
I would, dress her up in something, like, kinda, like, subtle and, like, elegant and classy sort of
Hmm.
thing, like, something, like, long and flowy. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Darker
I guess
colors or brighter colors, would you say?
I mean, based on the palette of her designs, I think brighter colors.
Okay. And
Yeah.
say like Michiru wasn't wearing like athletic clothing,
Mhm.
like her go-to outfit, what would she be wearing in college, what
Oh,
do you think?
she would be, like, wearing, like, the campus sweatshirt. And, like, I don't know, like something comfortable, like leggings, and then, like, her runners.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a lot of fuel for
Oh, yeah, have fun.
artists. Yeah, have fun, everyone.
Ask me for more of my headcanons. Let's go.
Dude, you're the concept artist. We can have this
Oh,
headcanon
jeez.
all day long.
I am a
S
concept artist, but it's, like, it's not official.
yeah, I just want to preface this.
Let's go. Yeah?
All right. So here's another question. From Zebra Force. Silly
Mhm.
question, but what was a funny story you can share when you were coming up with ideas to the team?
Oh, let me see. I think there was one time, like, we were, trying to figure out, like, how to do Nazuna's, Silver Wolf cloak thing, and then,
Oh,
Yoshinari was like, "Yeah, like, I want this to be a cloak, but, like, I want, like, her arms sticking out." So I was like, "Oh, so, how about, like, a Snuggie?" And then they're like, "What's a Snuggie?" And they had to Google it, and then they saw what a Snuggie is, and they're like, "No." Um, but I just thought it was funny.
what is
The
a
I
Snuggie, by the way? I
You don't
don't.
know
Is it a
what a
one
Snuggie
piece?
is?
I'm
You don't know what
sorry.
it's like a blanket with sleeves in it. It
I'm like looking it up.
there's
It
like
looks like,
there's like infomercials for it. It's like kind of
oh my
stupid looking. So
gosh.
I just thought like the concept of a Snuggie being like a cult uniform is funny. There was like another time, I think around the time I was working on the EG, like I got some feedback on like the way I drew like Shiro. Satsumi, like the producer, she was like, "Oh, I think his face should be prettier here because we want him to be like popular with the ladies." And I'm like, "Well, honestly, as a lady, I just drew him to my taste." So that was funny.
It wasn't good enough for
It
the
wasn't good
Japanese
enough.
lady taste.
Yeah. I mean, I often like wonder though, like um like there's a lot of like pretty boys in media, I guess, but like I kind of wonder how like popular that type actually is because I feel like most of the people I know like prefer like the rugged like sad dudes.
Wait, so like,
But
what was like your imagined, like, I guess, impression of Shiro? Were you gonna draw him like more muscular, or
um like not noticeably more muscular, but like like with like a slightly like wider jaw and like
okay,
things like that. It's
like
like
dad bod, or like
not
still like chiseled?
uh it's like it's like a really subtle difference. It's just
Okay.
like like make his jaw like a few pixels wider. That's that kind of thing. Or like his neck is like a little bit thicker.
I guess
Very
sort of where
subtle.
I'm like going for is like, I'm wondering like how much like, say, like just like Japanese or even just like K-pop fashion just like influenced just like maybe the taste of like how Shiro is like imagined to be now that
Mm.
it's like
Uh,
more preferential to be like skinnier and
I don't know. Like if it were up to me, he would be less skinny. That's all.
all right. I think I'm gonna talk a little bit more about character design.
Sure.
Um, let's see. I think this is kind of related to working with Trigger. How much in the loop were you with like BNA production? Were you like involved? Was information like laid out for you initially, or was everything kept on like a need to know basis?
What do you mean by do you know what they mean by need to know basis?
That's a good question. I feel like it's like, are they just giving you like the basics of what you need to be
Mm,
working with, or did he have like a bigger picture of like what was going on at the time?
mm.
Like a
I think
broader scope.
mm, I think because of the position I was in, like it often mattered what where the rest of the production was at. So I'd say like I had like I was pretty like informed about where things were at. Like I don't know like all those like very like tiny specifics of like how like the animations were going, but like like when there were changes in like the title of the or like when the first episode is like done animating, or like when scripts were done, things like that. I was pretty informed.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's really good because I was like curious, like because like like character design, just concept art is like very like, I guess like you kind of need to be in the know, right?
Yeah,
Especially
yeah.
with like big changes within the plot, and like
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Nazuna, you had to like really know her backstory and
Yeah.
where she was in order to even
Yeah.
like design her.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So a lot of people are asking like just like sort of like getting their feet wet with like character design or just like making illustrations.
Mm,
Shiny Sea Light asks, how can I get out of my comfort zone while designing characters or making illustrations? I always tend to give up and go back.
mm. I guess that depends on like what they mean by comfort zone. Um,
Let's say like you
because
have a style or something. Like
yeah.
Like, say you're like really accustomed to, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you used to draw a lot of like realistic artwork of like
Mm-hmm.
like K-pop stars, if
Yeah.
I can say that.
Yeah.
So let's say back then, if you were to like, if you had to like draw like say BNA characters.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, like I guess like going back to like the person's question, like off the top of my head, there like I can hypothesize like a few situations. Like it might be that you're going too far out of your comfort zone. So then like it's like you're jump you're jumping too soon into like the deep end. But like you don't have to. Like maybe you can like start like more shallow and kind of like easier way in there. Um another the other approach is just to like stick with it or like like accept when something isn't like as like pretty or comfortable as you're used to because I guess like that's just normal like when you practice something new um it's not gonna be perfect so
Right.
just like taking that as part of the process and like going forward with it is good
Hmm.
yeah.
So like, I guess like during this process, Mr. Baggins asked this question. When like designing a character, do you first think of the way they look and come up with a story later, or do you create like their backstory, story arc,
Oh, that's
personality, and then the
that
visuals?
totally that totally depends. I mean, like when I work on projects like BNA or like, stuff for Giant Ant and things like that, usually the story and stuff like that is already decided for me. Or yeah, like there's already like a direction in place. So then like my job as the designer is just to like convert those ideas into like something visual.
Right.
Um when I'm doing stuff on my own, it can be anything. Sometimes I start with the story or personality in mind. Sometimes I start with the visuals.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess on the topic of character design, what is the character you liked most to create? This is from TLIH.
Mm. Oh, that's difficult.
Maybe let's
Um,
say inside BNA and also outside if it's
oh,
different.
outside, hmm. I've done like so many different things outside. It's like, and they're so different. So I feel like that's even harder to pick than within BNA. But within BNA, I guess like in terms of process, maybe maybe Alan's beast form is something that I feel like pretty happy with because like at that point I think that might have been like one of the last designs I did for the production so but at that point I would have like been working on BNA for like about 2 years so then like compared to like
Oh,
when I
really?
yeah so then compared to like when I first like worked on the project. Like when I first worked on the project, like one, big imposter syndrome. I'm kind of like unsure about like what the creative boundaries are, like how far I could push things and like, I'm like unsure about like my style and like drawing ability. And then like by the end of the project, like I kind of like had my process down. Like I knew the story, like I knew like what style to go for and like how far I could push things. So, um, like all of that like went into like those designs, and I think it turned out well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of shocked me was you said 2 years ago, right? So could you like give like maybe the audience a
Oh,
picture
like
of like the
the
production like
timeline.
timeline? Yeah.
Oh, so let me remember. I think I was contacted by Will Fang from LA in August 2018. And then I said yes, and he's like, "Cool, we'll sort it out." And then And then it was like silent for a few months. And then I was like, oh, I guess they ghosted me. That's fine. I wasn't expecting this to happen anyway. And then in like October or November, they got back and they're like, okay, we're ready to start. Um, so then I think like by November 2018, like I was beginning to do like concepts. And then I was working um on the show like up until um like April 2020, I think, because like I booked a vacation and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like go to Europe and hang out. See ya. And yeah. So I stopped then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think also related to production, someone asked, or C Yang one asked, how much work does a concept artist do after production starts?
Hmm. Oh, that really depends on the production. Like in my position on BNA, I guess like I was doing concepts as the production was going. Like it's kind of staggered, right? Like the animators are like working on like I don't know, like episode 1 and then I'd be like working on concepts for like episode 4 or something.
Oh,
Um
so you were still like making concept art when they were still animating.
yeah, yeah, it's staggered.
So how far were, or when did you reach like maybe the last episode? And how
Uh-huh.
was that in relation to other parts of the production? Like,
Um I don't know actually. Like
did you
maybe
work
like
on different
yeah.
episodes at different times, or was it more like in order, would you say?
I think there was some points where we jumped around a bit. Um, yeah, it's been a while, so I can't recall like the specifics.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, I think someone else or a couple people asked, like, would you still work with Trigger if they invited you again?
Oh yeah, for sure. I had fun. Yeah.
And I guess like,
Mm.
how was it like working with Yoshinari and like Yoshigaki if you got to interact with them?
Oh, oh, Yoshigaki, I didn't interact with them. Yoshinari is like cool. He's he's like kind of quiet. I feel like Tsutsumi talks for him a lot. Um, I mean, I guess like I said earlier, like in the beginning, like I was very like nervous and intimidated and like imposter syndrome, but I think he was always like very like receptive of like stuff that I suggested, so it was fun.
So I know we talked about imposter syndrome a little bit, but
Yeah.
was there like a moment in the production where like it clicked? Like you like realized like I am working on this project and I am confident in my abilities? Or would you say
Uh,
it's more of a gradual process?
I think it was kind of a gradual process. It's like after a certain point, you're like, oh, like they like my work. You're not gonna fire me. And then yeah,
Let's see.
it was gradual.
Yeah, because I don't know, like I can't really relate to working with Trigger, but I've like I've like gotten like positions like at good companies that I didn't
Mm.
plan to get. And even like
Mhm.
throughout the whole process, even at the internship, I'll just feel like I don't belong there almost. And
Mm.
I don't know if it's like asking for life advice, but like a lot of times it's like I don't know if I'll ever feel like I belong at a certain like location or place in
Mm.
life.
Mm.
So it's just like I guess like how do I push through that I don't know belief or like give
Mm.
yourself more comfort?
I guess like I guess to an extent it's kind of like you gotta invite yourself into a space. Um or like yeah, like not shoot yourself in the foot sort of deal. Um, yeah. Or also just like don't like not assume that like the people around you are as hard on you as you are on yourself. I think that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you got criticism, like say from like Yoshinari or like from Trigger's staff, like did you have issues with like internalizing it? Because I hear this a lot with artists where or just even just like anyone that like makes something, like any creator,
Mm,
just like when you get
mm,
criticism, it's almost like an attack on yourself, you would say. Whereas
mm,
like in reality, it's more of like a critique on your work and
mm,
not letting the work define you.
mm.
Did this ever impact you in any way? Or
I would say on BNA, for one, like I didn't get like whenever I submitted stuff, it was usually like pretty straightforward. And then like whenever I got feedback, it was I think the feedback they gave were like very like reasonable. So it's like like for example, um like for one image board, they're like, oh, like the colors here, we want it to like look like morning. This kind of looks like evening. And I'm like, all right, like that's fair. And then
okay.
I do some like more tries. I guess that's just part of like working as an artist like professionally. I think it's really important to like understand that like at the end of the day, you're making a product. And or you're providing a service and like like your client has needs and then they're paying you to meet them, so
And I like
that's the job. Yeah.
capitalism again. I
Well,
like how
it's
you
just yeah.
I mean, I like how you brought up like the product side of things.
Hmm.
So I mean, I like sort of fell into that issue where it's like how do you turn like a hobby into profession and like is it even possible to enjoy like the hobby after that, right?
Oh,
Like
it's rough.
did you have this worry at all, like especially moving into art as a career? And were there ever times where you're just like, man, I'd rather just do something else and just do art as a hobby and still enjoy it, let's say.
Oh, well, I mean, like when I was starting out pursuing art as a career, I think I didn't even like think that hard about like how it would affect my relationship with art as a hobby because I was just like so focused on like okay, gonna be professional now. Um but yeah, it's definitely something I struggle with. It's like oh, like I draw for work, I draw for fun, so what is my life anymore? um I guess like I think having like separation between like what you do for fun and what you do for work helps kind of like keeping that like boundary like sacred
Yeah.
even. Yeah.
That's kind of difficult if you like to draw for work and in your free
Oh
time too.
yeah, I mean it's like you give some, you lose some. It's like like it's like I'm doing what I love for work, and but then at the same time it's like oh, like now something like I love, it's like I can't work on this with like as much like purity as before. um yeah.
So, I guess on the topic of career,
Mm.
Pericles asks, do you have any more plans to work in the anime industry as a character designer or concept artist?
Um, I don't know. Right now, I don't have any plans. If it happens, it happens. That's that's where I'm at right now.
Just go wherever life takes you,
Yeah,
basically.
just go wherever life takes me. Right now, I'm on a sabbatical, just chilling, playing games.
What games are you playing?
Oh, I've been playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. That's all.
Nice.
Yeah.
Favorite characters in Fire
I don't
Emblem?
favorite characters. I haven't played the Edelgard route yet. But I like Claude and Dedu. Good dudes.
Have you still been playing Animal Crossing, or
Oh no,
was that
I've
2020?
dropped it. I'm
No.
taking a break. I don't know. It gets to the point where you're like, where it kind of feels like a chore. Or like I was like redecorating my island and then like I realized I wanted to change the layout and it was just like so much work, it felt like. So I'm like, do that later. And I haven't done that later.
Yeah.
That's where that's at.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the, especially like the creative games, like say like Minecraft even, like it gets to a certain point where you're just like, this takes too much work.
It's
Or
like, yeah,
like
this is
you
a
like have like
chore
a
now.
yeah, or you
Yeah,
have like a change in
exactly.
like idea or something and you want to like
Mhm.
switch. Like
Mhm.
did that ever happen in art where it's like, say like in your free time, right? Like when you're drawing a certain
Mhm.
style, like did it ever like click like, dude, I don't like this style anymore. I want to change it up. Like were there ever key moments in your art hobby
Yeah.
where you've done that?
I'm I mean, yeah, I guess so. I feel like that's part of improving and growing as an artist. So yeah, like when you're bored with your work, I think that's either an indicator that it's like time to like try something new or to take a break. Um, yeah.
One of my questions is probably like, how did you transition from like drawing more realism to like going to more modern or more cartoon style of drawing?
Mm, I
Was
don't
it
know.
natural?
I think it I think it was kind of natural because like what I ran into when I was like painting all of those like portraits from reference is like I had to rely so much on like finding the perfect photo reference. It was kind of it was very limiting because it's like, oh, like if I want to like do like this kind of pose, but I can't find like the reference for it, um, then like, I get kind of stuck. So I started like exploring stylization more because um I guess it's just like more there's like more stuff I can do without like spending like an hour like looking through Tumblr or like Pinterest for like the right like hand pose. It's like it
So
gives
you
me more room.
mentioned
Yeah.
no, you can continue.
Oh, it's like yeah, it gives me more room to like make stuff up. Um,
Right.
so that's fun.
So you mentioned like Tumblr and Pinterest. Like, do you usually like have like boards like pre-made for like different styles of art? Like, how would you go through the
Um,
process of?
I actually don't keep like catalogs of reference that much anymore. Like when I when I need something, I just go on Google Images and go like, oh, back anatomy reference, and then just Google that and go. Pinterest, I think if I'm starting like a large project and I want to like feel out the art direction, I'll use it because I like the way they suggest images to you. It's like very handy for browsing.
Right. So, back to the topic of career. Did you go to school for concept art? Asks Crab.
So, I went to school at Capilano for the program was called like um, animation and visual development. I think I would say the program is specialized for um, like working in the local animation industry, specifically for TV animation, so like cartoons and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, so like, I guess on this topic of just like going to school, things like that, do you recommend, say, like an artist in high school that like wants to pursue a career in like animation or even just concept art? Would you recommend them going through traditional like art school or just put their portfolio out there?
Mm. I think it really depends. Like, depends on like the school you're applying to. Like, some of them suck. Some of them are decent. think school is good for community and like meeting peers and like building relationships with them. Um but there's like lots of other options too. Like there's a lot of like online like schools that you can try out. And like, like in terms of just like purely learning and improving skills, there's a lot of like more affordable like online alternatives. But then at the same time, like, like for some people, like going to university isn't just for networking and like the skills, like, like sometimes you want the degree for like visa purposes and things like that.
Right.
Or, sometimes people just prefer like having the in-person interaction and like instruction. So I think like if you're if someone's in like high school considering their options, the I think the most effective thing they can do is just like reflect on like what their needs and goals are, and then like like look at like what options are available to you, and then like figure out what fits best based on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess like turning this question towards you personally, do you think you could get to where you are now without going through like traditional art school and just say like just contacting and networking without school?
Maybe. I would say like when I went to school, um the like improving my skills wasn't the most I got out of it. Cuz like by the time I got into school, I think I was already at like a somewhat like employable skill level. So like what I went for was, kind of just to like make friends and um like learn more about like the industry. So like, in that way I think it was valuable to me.
Right.
Um but I don't know, I think skill wise it would be possible for me to do without it.
Because
Yeah.
I think the emphasis on network is very important,
Mm,
especially in like a non-traditional as a like non-STEM like career field as maybe like television or art.
mm.
Especially like I think previously said in another like discussion was that like one of your professors had connections with Giant Ant or something?
Yeah.
Or
Um well, yeah, one of the instructors had a friend at Giant Ant, but like actually like me getting a position at Giant Ant was something that happened like independently from school.
okay,
Um like what happened was I guess yeah, like there was like an assignment in one of the classes where the instructor was like, "Oh, okay, like look up all of these like Vancouver studios, pick a few that you like pick three that you would like to work at. Just like tell me about them." And then like she actually already had like a whole Excel sheet of like a bunch of studios, and then Giant Ant was on there, and like, there was like a website, like there was like a link to their website and everything. So that's how I first like encountered Giant Ant.
right.
So then like like I saw their stuff, and like I kind of like read a bit about like how they run things, and I was like, oh, like this vibes. Um, and then at that point I was just like, okay, like before I learned about Giant Ant, I was kind of just like preparing myself to just like graduate and then like wait and see what offers I get and then like choose from there. But like when I found Giant, I was like, oh, nah, I'm gonna like initiate and like ask them for a position. So I did, and I got set up with an internship, and yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So I don't know.
So
It's yeah.
what are you gonna say?
Oh no, it's nothing.
Because a lot of chat is like talking right now about like how important like getting experience and building portfolio is, especially if you don't have school or the network available
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
So I guess talking about portfolio, how would you recommend like building a portfolio for
Um,
for an aspiring artist?
I mean, a portfolio is if you're trying to get a job with a portfolio, the portfolio is just like, like proof to whoever is recruiting you that you can do the job. So an effective portfolio is a portfolio that displays your skills well. Um, I would say like quality over quantity is good. Um, like obviously, like if you want to be like a character designer, for example, then you're gonna want to have like character designs in your portfolio. Think making the website you're on like um decent to navigate helps a little bit.
Maybe just a
Yeah.
little, just
Uh,
slightly.
I mean, I guess like another way to look at it is that you want to design your website so that there's nothing about the function of it that discourages people from like looking at the rest of your work. Um,
Oh,
like for example, sometimes like people like try too hard to like flex what they can do with websites, and then they make they make browsing their work very complicated. That might be discouraging if someone's like going through like a lot of applications and then they come onto like your monster of a website and they're like, oh, this is too annoying to look at, and then you get skipped over it. That's the worst thing. That's one of the less good things that can happen. Um,
kind
yeah,
of like it's kind of like a resume, right? It's like if your resume
yeah,
is like way too colorful, way too complicated, dude, the recruiter's gonna toss in the bin. They're not gonna even
yeah,
look at it.
exactly. I think actually like the approach that I take is like I try to imagine myself in like the shoes of like a recruiter or like an employer or
Ooh,
whatever. You kind of like think about what like if you were hiring, what would you want to see? If you were
right,
hiring for like this position or like for this project, what would you want to see? And
right.
then make that. Yeah.
Yeah, someone in chat says a portfolio is literally just a visual resume, but I would even take it a step further. Like a portfolio resume is literally just like a dating profile. It's like an Instagram profile basically, where you're trying to like put the best version of yourself and you're trying to like let other people like attract or just like want you and create that
Yeah,
like demand.
exactly. Exactly.
So with like talking about like Instagram and Twitter, like I know you have a big presence on those as well. How would you say how important would you say to say like building a following or just building like a presence on the platforms versus like traditionally like making a website and like sending your work out?
I think it's helpful to do both. It's helpful to like cover your bases. Though I guess like what you prioritize is kind of up to you. Um like if you think of it like if you think of it as like, like casting like when if you think of posting your work as like casting a net, then like the more platforms you're on, like the wider your net is. But
Hmm.
then, like at the same time, it's not very sustainable to like put all your energy into like 20 different platforms. Um I think, like the mainstream, like just having the mainstream ones is kind of good. Um
I
and
mean, what
if you can
platforms are you on right now?
um let's see, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, DeviantArt. That's it. Yeah.
Sorry, I think your you're talking about casting too wide of a net and just
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a balance, right? Because like on one hand, like the quality of your audience matters, and like the more time and energy you invest in like the audience you have, like the higher quality your audience will be. Then at the same time, it's like if you're like doing that too much for like too many platforms, like you're not gonna have energy to like do your art and things like that. Yeah.
so one viewer says a derp commander is talking about like physical portfolios. Did you ever have to like prepare like a physical portfolio in like a binder?
When I was applying for school, I did that. Um, or like when I was in high school, we'd have like art shows and I'd like print my digital stuff in like a binder and like just leave it out on display. Um, but that's it. Like I've never had to do that for work.
Would you say like now that's not really the case, especially with like online
Oh
application?
yeah, I'm sure. It's fun though to like have your stuff physically.
Mm.
Um, and not necessary anymore, I don't think.
Do you print out your work a lot, just like for inspiration or just for fun
Uh,
to hang on
uh,
your walls?
no, it feels weird to hang my own work up on my walls. Like it's like too indulgent or something.
Really?
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's like putting up a picture of yourself in your room. You're like, it's like why?
Hey, some people do that, you know?
Oh, well, I'm not that kind of person. But I do get my work. I do like make prints for my work sometimes.
Right.
Like sell them to other people. I haven't done that for a while though.
Was there like ever a moment where like you like felt the need to like sort of like just like absorb all the clout and just like because you were talking earlier about like too self-indulgent, right?
Uh-huh.
So like I don't know, like did you like have you ever like done
Do you
ego?
ever bask in my
Yeah, bask in your
100K?
glory while you sit on your throne when you watch all of
Oh,
us.
um, I don't know, sometimes. Like not too much though.
Have you like done ego searching before? Like going on Google and just searching your name?
Who doesn't?
How often though?
Not that often. It's like whenever I whenever I feel like it. I think like whenever I'm like touching up my website or something, like, oh okay, like how does this look on Google? And then I'll check. Or like if I'm editing like my bio, like updating it, I'm like, I gotta think about like what I look like, sort of thing.
Do you ask like friends for help or just like peers? Like, hey, like should I like change my bio to this or should I like
Um,
add this in my portfolio?
Not really. I think like at least for my profiles on like websites and like portfolio stuff, I think I have like a pretty good sense of like how to present myself. Um, yeah.
Hmm. So I guess like on the topic of just like clout and things like that, where do you see yourself in maybe like 10 or like 20 years? Because you did talk about like an interest in teaching, right?
Mm,
And like mentorship. But
mm.
like do you see yourself like have there's this one person named Ho, and he's asking, do you plan to have your own animated series or animated film? Or where do you just see yourself in say 20 years from now?
Well, 20 years is like, man, is the Earth even gonna be here?
All
Climate
right, let's
change.
say let's say
It's
10
like
years then.
10 years. I could do
10 years is manageable when you're 30 years
20.
old or something.
I don't know. Um, I think I would like to lean into teaching stuff a bit more. Um, and I don't know, like career wise, it just depends on like what falls into my lap. Um, I don't have any very specific plans.
Would you say like a lot of like, I don't know, like life goals or just like sort of life milestones was just very like matter of the fact, just like go with the flow, or would you like to think a lot of it was like thought out beforehand, like
Mm,
methodical?
I think it's like, the closer something is in the future, the more like methodical I am. Like, for example, if I'm like, let's say I'm working on like a book and then like, I want to get it out in 2 months, then I'll be like extremely methodical about it. But then like in terms of career plans, it's more of a vibe, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And like on the topic of vibing and just like work and life, like do you like feel pressured by like maybe parents or just society to be like, I need to be doing like this work or I need to be doing this job just so I like have
Mm,
food on the table? Or
mm,
like would you rather like let maybe like your feelings and your emotions take you to like take breaks or things like that?
Well, I mean, I am on a sabbatical, so
Right.
I'm in the taking breaks mode. And I think like I'm pretty lucky that my parents are like my family is like super chill. Um like so I don't have too much pressure to appear productive and things like that.
Could you like elaborate a little bit more on sabbatical? Because I think last time we talked to you, maybe last year, you're with
Mhm.
Giant Ant, correct?
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
like we can talk about like burnt out a little bit because
Mm.
I get burnt out and I'm not even working and I'm still in school right now.
Mhm.
How did you deal with it, like career burnout? And was the decision to take a sabbatical difficult for you?
Oh, I think it was very difficult because I think like coming to terms with the way I gotta stop working is very difficult when I like dedicated so much of my like life to being like a powerhouse. Suddenly stopping is like kind of hard. Um, but I think it like on in the bigger picture, it's like good for me. Um, what was the other part of the question?
Yeah, I forgot it too. Because we were
It's
talking about
fine.
yeah, we were talking about like yeah, how difficult it'd be to like
Mm.
make that decision of taking a sabbatical.
Yeah, it was very hard because it's like I had the option to like, like just take a vacation and then like go back to China, but like I chose to just like leave completely because if I think that seemed like a it that seemed like the more fitting option
Fitting
considering
in
yeah.
terms of like for the companies, like um
I
just or for fitting for yourself, like
think
closing a chapter.
for for everyone, I think kind of more for myself. I don't know. It's a thing. Yeah.
So I guess like what was like the first few days like? Like after you took the
First few days?
sabbatical? Were you
Oh,
like doubting yourself? Like, man, I shouldn't have quit the job or man, I should just
oh,
like
nah, I think by um, the the immediate, like, few days was, like, a big relief, and then I started I'd start, like, doubting myself, like, a few weeks after, but then, it kinda comes and goes. I think, like, ultimately, having a break from, like, working 9 to 6, nice.
right.
Like playing video games for 12 hours a day instead. It's like pretty nice.
'Cause I think especially with, like, your career path, right? Like, you
Mhm.
did school for maybe, like, 3 years or 4 years, and I think typically in Canada, like, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of students are going to school for, like, 5 or 6 years, doing co-op in between, right?
My program was actually 2 years. So,
Wow.
yeah, I was in and out pretty quick. What was the question? Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just, like,
Oh,
asking, like
yeah.
I was just asking, like, your career path. It just seemed like it was very, like, immediately, like, into adulting
It
phase, you
was
know?
very expedited, I would say. Like, it's like I was in high school and then I was in school for 2 years and then I was in interning and then like in the midst of like freshly being promoted to like a full-time position, I also started working on an anime. Um, so
Like looking back, do you think it would change anything about like your career path? Like, would you have maybe gone through to like a longer program or done more internships in between?
nah, nah, I think like I'm pretty happy with like what I've ended up with. No regrets. Had a good time.
You're sounding like you're sounding like it's over already. Dude, we're still like, what are we, like 23 or 22? Do we still have
That's
time? We still have
that's
like
fine.
3/4 of our lives ahead of
Have
us.
a very like nihilistic.
It doesn't sound nihilistic because you sound very like grateful for what you had.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And I
maybe
think
nihilistic. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in like the mindset that I'm like retired now. It's chilling.
would you say that like it would be hard for you to like maybe get back into like the swing of things, or are you more like inner peace right now? Like Zen mode?
I don't know. It's like somewhere in between. I think um when when I make the decision to get back into the swing of things, it will probably take a while to like settle into like a new routine, but I think I can make it work out.
Good
Thank
luck. Because I think I've also been on break from school
Uh-huh.
actually. And
Yeah.
like especially with COVID and a lot of the world events that went on, it definitely gives you a lot more time to pause and think. Just like
It's too much time.
too much time exactly, but it is like well worth it if you look at the bright side of things right
Mm,
now.
yeah.
Because now like going back, like I do have a better perspective of what I want to do. Like I think you also like want to get more involved with maybe like mentorship and just like
Yeah.
dealing with underrepresented communities. Same thing with me. It's like I guess I am like as I said before, I'm a STEM lord, but I do want to like provide better access to better education for underrepresented minorities and things like that. And I think it's definitely a good time for us to like be more aware and conscious of our surroundings.
Mm,
So moving to a more lighter note, I do have a few questions that people have been asking.
mm,
I'll just maybe we can do a quick lightning round. For chat listening in right now, we'll probably be ending on the hour, so 4 minutes left of our conversation. So just
mm.
starting off, Okami 1997 asks, "What is your favorite dessert?"
Probably some kind of ice cream or popsicle.
You gotta be more specific than that, like
Oh,
mochi,
oh,
like
so I don't know.
green tea,
I
matcha
eat
tea.
like I eat anything sweet. I guess I've been enjoying those like like bubble tea popsicles, the ones with like
Oh my
tapioca in
gosh,
it. Those
yes.
ones are
Do you,
good.
do you get
They're
those at
pretty good.
Costco too, or
Not at Costco, but like Walmart or like, we have like those Asian
right?
supermarkets.
I think there's this brand called Tiger Sugar. It's like this Taiwanese
Yeah,
brand.
yeah, it's
They make
good.
really good
Good
options if
stuff.
anyone wants to have a brand. Do you have any pets? Ash
Uh, I
asked
used to have
Okami
I
1987.
used to have guinea pigs when I was in elementary school
Oh my
and
gosh.
fish. No pets right now though.
What were their names, the guinea pigs?
Um, Dandruff and Scarlet.
Dandruff.
Yeah.
Do they have like Chinese names too, or just Dandruff and
Nah, just
Scarlet?
just just English names.
Favorite trigger work outside of BNA as Lulu Rios.
Um, I think I would say Promare for like nostalgic reasons of like being in a theater with friends and having a good time.
If those of you aren't familiar with Janice, you can definitely check out her fan art and some amazing drawings and memes of Premiere.
Oh yeah, it's all on Twitter.
What was that? What was that like video that got super like popular? I
Oh,
think it
the
was
one
like
was it was me like doing the turkey hands, but with like
yes,
with Gallows hair. Yeah, that was
with
good.
gallows hair.
Yeah. That was fun.
And you definitely like watched Premiere before this whole BNA thing happened, right? Or was this around the same time?
Um, Premiere came out in the midst of BNA being in production.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. What's your favorite Nintendo game? Asks Eventful.
I like Pokemon. I don't know, like a lot of the Switch games are pretty good. Like Breath of the Wild is like slap.
True.
Um, I mean, I've been playing
Toilet.
Fire Emblem. Yeah.
Super Toilet asks, what's your favorite Pokemon?
Uh, Flygon? I don't. I always try to have a Flygon if I can.
Ooh.
It's cute
It is
and
cute, but
good.
like I don't know what it is though. Is it like a dragonfly? Is it like an insect or
Yeah, it's like this dragon insect thing, kind of like a dragonfly.
would you say like Gen 3 was your favorite or like more nostalgic or
Uh,
do you like any other
I
gen better?
I think actually, Gen 4 Diamond and Pearl is the most nostalgic because that's the first one I played.
Which game? Oh, did you say Pearl
Yeah,
or
Diamond and Pearl. I got Pearl.
okay.
Yeah.
I was Diamond. I think it was like Dialga and Palkia or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good stuff.
Do you remember your starter Pokemon still or not?
Oh, definitely like Piplup.
Yo,
Always Piplup.
I always choose the water starter. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Well, I chose Piplup because like I was a kid and I was like, this is cute. But now I choose like the fire starters because it's like there's so many like fire like grass and water Pokemon. Like it's it's less efficient.
All right, similar on the topic. How did
Okay.
you get through the pandemic from Hikari?
Oh, I mean, I quit my job.
That's one thing.
Yeah, I quit my job. Chilling, but that's because I have the privilege to.
I guess like what did you do in the free time, other
Ah,
than gaming?
other than gaming, I've been like brushing up on my piano hobby and redecorating my room.
Ooh,
Yeah.
favorite composer?
Oh, I just play like anime and video game music. I don't.
What's like something
I'm not
recently you learned?
classy.
Oh,
Um, I mean, I've always been I always play Cruel Angel's Thesis because that one's like kind of
ooh,
fun, a little bit challenging. And then right now I'm trying to learn like the Fire Emblem Three Houses theme on the piano.
nice.
Yeah.
And maybe a few more questions in chat and also pre-submitted. What is your favorite animation in the world? Ask DHONE. And also maybe like what's your favorite anime if it's the same?
Oh, it's hard. I guess like
I know.
off the top of my head, I think like the stuff on Gobelins YouTube channel, like that's the French school, French animation school. They they come out with like the students come up with really good stuff. I think the Osmosis short in particular is like really memorable to me, even though like it's many years old. Favorite anime? Mm, I always default to Full Metal Alchemist because it's
Brotherhood
just
or
oh,
original?
definitely Brotherhood.
Okay, all right. Because I was like, that was a little bit controversial if you didn't say like Brotherhood.
Uh, I like the manga and I like Brotherhood. Um,
That's
yeah.
fair. I personally think like I think FMA, like the original, was better like with from episode 1 through 30. And I think Brotherhood definitely finished the series
Mm.
better.
That's what I've heard. I haven't like the original like the 2003 one was the first one I watched, and then I read the manga and then I watched Brotherhood.
All right.
So it's been a while.
Yeah,
I should
same.
check it out again.
Okay, last two questions. What is your favorite animal?
Frog?
Frog?
Frog. Yeah. They're just
Just
funny little guys.
and I guess like the last question. Oh, I don't want this to be the last question.
Okay.
Pineapples on pizza or not?
I'll tell you whatever, sure.
All right, there's your answer.
There you go.
All right, thank you
Great.
everyone for showing up. Thank you, Janice.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
I think there were a few things you mentioned that chat does want to know. Something I think people ask like, what is the tablet you're using right now?
Well, right now I'm using the Wacom Cintiq 22-inch big guy.
Nice. I think
Yeah,
chat heard that.
nice.
You did mention like a French animation studio, and you did mention like favorite anime. If you could just drop maybe like a link in chat if
Oh,
people want to check that out.
the gobble. It's the school. What was the other thing?
I didn't really catch
Oh,
it
okay.
either.
That's fine.
And then I guess we can plug you again. Janice Cream on Twitter and Instagram, right?
Yeah. Well, that's not
And
everything. It's chill.
yeah, and I think a lot of it's in the pins right now. So thank you so
Great.
much, Janice, for
Yeah, thanks for
participating with
having
us.
me.
Thank you, chat, and all the moderators, and Tatun for supervising as well. I guess it's goodbye, and stay tuned for
Yeah.
our next one. Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye.